Tebow going on his own. He gets the try.
The Red 78.
We're both Munster people.
Carberry gets over the line. Try from Munster.
Nobody knows Munster rugby better.
Hello and welcome along. I'm Alan Quinlan and you're listening to episode 48 of the Red 78 here on the Rugby channel. And with me, as always, is Niamh Briggs. How are you, Niamh? Positive result, really positive result from Munster on Friday night. How was your weekend? I'm sure that made you happy.
Yeah, it was good. We had an All-Ireland semi-final on Saturday evening against Blackrock in Dublin. We lost 13-8.
Okay.
Put in an unbelievable performance. Like, we got pumped by them by 50-odd points in October. So to turn it around within 5 or 6 weeks is brilliant for us. As a group, we're very young going forward. So just still disappointing when you've got so close. And look, Blackrock were definitely, I think, the better team. Deserved their win, but it was an unbelievable match. So, a mixed weekend. A mixed weekend.
Friday was good. Saturday wasn't so good.
Yeah.
As ever, we want you to be involved. You can always tweet us at Rugby Channel 15 or either of us at our personal Twitter accounts. Leave a comment on YouTube. And this week, Niamh, we're again 2 weeks in the bounce. Well, 3 weeks really, because we South Africa, Connacht, and a win against Edinburgh. So it's been 3 positive weeks, lots of improvement. And I put a tweet out yesterday, and really energetic, happy responses from the Munster fans.
Yeah, I just can't believe you're being positive for 3 weeks in a row. It must have been something that's so out of your mindset.
Can't believe it myself. I can't believe it myself.
Look, we talked, you spoke about the night's win in Edinburgh, and then obviously looking forward to this Sunday, which we'll chat about later. Adrian O'Donoghue, we're starting to gain some momentum. Easy to see Joey is Munster's number one out half. He just the glue that sticks everything together. Shane Daly was immense. Are you watching Andy Farrell? Dave Parks, absolutely delighted with that win away to a good Edinburgh side. Terrible start, but showed massive belief in themselves and the system's turning around. Frisch was the catalyst for me, and Patterson did really well when he came on. Joe said the lads...
Frisch was what? What did he say?
Was the catalyst.
The catalyst. I thought you said scandalous. Sorry, my ears are hearing is going a little bit.
My little Waterford / Limerick accent. Joe said the lads responded well after a slow start. If we give Toulouse a head start on Sunday, they'll be much more difficult to rein back. Tough run of games ahead, but hopefully our recent improved form and cohesion can continue. Barry Hogan, excellent effort from the whole team. Jean Klein deserved man of the match. Big improvement in a short period of time. Hopefully we've settled enough for this weekend. Martin Brommel then, ropey start, heads didn't drop and they grew into the match. Edinburgh didn't know what to do in the second half with the intensity Munster brought. Frisch is a baller, starting to see what this ticket's plan is. A good few of them are about that. You know, Tom Lonergan spoke about the first 15, 20 minutes being sloppy and stuff like that. The lack of a fast start, will that concern them this week?
Possibly. When you're at home, you want to start well. And Toulouse, we know, are an incredible side, and they have confidence and self-belief, particularly on the road as well. They're obviously very difficult at home, but they've proven their caliber over the years in Europe and what Europe means to them. So, you don't want to give Toulouse a fast start. You want to take away their confidence and, starting the game well, get the basics right. But look, nobody plans in any sport, Niamh, to go out and whether it's in GA, concede early goals, or soccer, or any sport. Ideally, you want to start well away from home and at home, because if you do it away from home, you settle in. You think you get a bit of confidence and self belief. You feel good and feel you can do the job here. And that's the intrigue about home and away fixtures in Europe over the years. 1 week you have a big win at home. The next week you go away to France or somewhere like that, and they turn the result around. It's it's all about my favorite kind of topic, the emotional kind of adrenaline rush and being up for these games and getting the pitch right for any team. Toulouse have so much depth in their squad that, look, at the end of the day, they're not a side that would panic either. But obviously Munster would like to start the game well, and it usually sets the tone for them at home in Thomond Park if they do that.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully they get a good crowd out. There was a couple of tweets that kind of had a similar theme. So, like the likes of Patrick Malotny and Christopher Murphy both spoke about Paddy Patterson's impact off the bench. And this is how fickle sport is. So we've been crying out for Craig Casey. Supporters have been crying out for Craig Casey to be starting every week. He's got a couple of starts, and now we're talking about Paddy Patterson and whether he's closing the gap and whether he should start. I actually had a little giggle at it. To be fair, I think when you can bring on somebody with that kind of energy, that ability, it almost, Casey's like off the Richter scale in terms of energy and his ability to move the ball and pace. And when teams are tiring, to be able to bring on somebody like Paddy Patterson is like such a bonus at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's they have depth there, isn't it? And that's something that in lots of different positions, you'd love to have those kind of options with impact coming off the bench. So he's put himself on the map, really, Paddy Patterson, with the performance in South Africa. And we had heard stuff coming out of the Munster camp about how much of an impact he was making in training. So it's a great option to have. And Conor Murray's out injured at the moment. So Munster would love to have, and the coaches would love to have more depth in other positions like that, where you're having these conversations. But I thought Craig Casey was really good the other night. I thought he's kicking off the back of rucks, his clearances, he's passing. Like all scrum halves and fly halves, there's a mistake or two in all of them because they're handling the ball so many times in the game that on occasions you get judged by one or two things, that decisions you should have made differently. But overall, I thought Craig Casey was outstanding on Friday night. And it's a brilliant option now to have Paddy Patterson off the bench, or even him knocking on the coach's door saying, "I want to start." And there'll be lots of changes, so it's a good headache for the coaches, and particularly, I suppose, the backs coach Mike Prendergast, who'd be heavily involved in what they're doing from 9.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one or two more. Tom Lundergan spoke about the first 15 minutes being sloppy. The following 65 minutes were just awesome. Dare I say it, Munster of old. Joey gets my star because he had the full roller coaster. Let's show the rugby world how invaluable Thomond Park is to Munster in Europe this time. And Fitzgerald, delighted that Joey didn't let the intercept knock his confidence. Great sign of maturity. He deserves a run of good, injury-free luck. I thought he was really good the other night, Joey Carberry. I thought he played really, really well. I thought he controlled the game. I thought he took control in not a Johnny Sexton shouty type of a way where he's visibly dragging people by the scruff of the neck. I thought it was a very understated, very calm, just keep going through the phases, and I think players around him then started, like, that first 15-20 minutes, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be a tough night for Munster. But it was just like that exudes that kind of that calmness that maybe that players around him can start to feed off, and then all of a sudden they start to put a couple of phases together, and before they know it, they played very little rugby and have got in only a point or two down. Do you know what I mean? So I just thought he was really good the other night.
Yeah, he was. Big performance right across the board. And I think the forwards in front of him, we'll talk about the individual performances in a minute. But I think one of the themes coming out of there is the reaction after being 12 points down. Edinburgh scoring, after 2 minutes, and then Darcy Graham's intercept.
Yeah.
The question I would ask, Niamh, is, and a few people have mentioned it, that they didn't drop their heads. That's down to a little bit of confidence and self-belief. And from being a coach, I know from playing in teams, even if something goes wrong, and people will shout and say, heads up and let's get the next play and let's focus and concentrate. And sometimes when the team believe you, and they look like a team that believed each other that they could get themselves back in this. Because we spoke about it last week. It was an incredibly strong Edinburgh side. So I think that was a very impressive part of and a lot of the tweeters there are mentioning that the reaction after being 12 points down, and then they conceded Jamie Ritchie's try, I think, and then you think, God, yeah, it's going to get back. when Scannell scores, or when Craig Casey scored, you think they're back in it, and then Jamie Ritchie scores again, and it's 17. They get to 17 points, and you're thinking, yeah, it's 17-7 now, and they'll kick on again. But the reaction was superb. I think the try by Niall Scannell gave them that self-belief that they're right back in this. And or Rory Scannell, sorry, it was a brilliant try. So yeah, that was the most impressive. Mentally, they look in better shape.
Yeah, and that'd have been great for his confidence. I think he had a few ropey moments within the first 15-20 minutes where he did defensively. I think Munster got caught honeypotting in towards the ball carrier as opposed to, and missing tackles. And I think that fair dues to Edinburgh, any line break, they were able to finish them off. And I think we've spoken about that, about Munster's ability or inability to do that over the first few games of the season. So yeah, look, I thought it was great. It was just the reset. It was like, okay, that's happened. Park it. We're under the posts. We're parking that now. Okay, what's going to happen next? Okay, we're going to kick long. We're going to kick contest. This is what we're going to do. And it was the ability to maybe hone in on just what the next job is, as opposed to thinking about, we shouldn't have done this or we should have done that. And that kind of centers players back in. It makes you kind of live in the moment, live in the now, as opposed to, and it's a very difficult thing to do. It's very easy to walk in on the post, as you just said, and went, okay, lads, don't worry about it, next play. You're like, oh my God, yeah, okay. But it's the ability to actually zone in and literally think about, okay, what's happening now? Okay, who's going to chase the kickoff? Who's going to make the big hit? And then all of a sudden, then you start to gain a little bit of momentum.
But that momentum must come from training as well, and actually getting fitter and getting to the understanding, more continuity.
I think that momentum comes from the first 8 games of the season, in terms of their performances are getting better. They've lost games, but they've managed to pick up points along the way. And then all of a sudden, the last few weeks, we've just seen.
But there's been a bit of consistency in selection as well.
Selection, I was going to say it.
So that could be a problem in the next few weeks. It's got to be managed with the Irish players, and particularly, Tadhg, Peter O'Mahony, starters for Ireland. But when you think of it and you look at the side, how many of these guys will have to be rested? I think Tadhg is one, Peter O'Mahony, but the vast majority of them, well, Joey Carberry, his time and his minutes, but I think he needs matches, and we've seen that. You spoke about it. Any more tweets? The fans are happy. You're happy. I'm happy. I think Munster, more importantly themselves, can be very pleased, because that was a tough match, and not many people gave them a chance of winning it. Much like I suppose for 65 minutes, they were absolutely outstanding. Couple of mistakes in there, could manage things better, and I'm sure they'll look back in the video. But let's move on to the game itself a little bit more. I know we've touched on some parts, the positives and the kind of negative scenarios. So the big positives for me, obviously, is the scoreline, scoring the tries, getting a bonus point win. But just technically for you, what was better this week and more of an improvement from the Connacht game?
Yeah, so they were so much more efficient in the scoring zone. They moved the ball better. They were just more on the same page in relation to what their job was. So if they were going to pick and jam around that ruck, if they were going to have a little pop pass, I think everybody just seemed to have an understanding of their role. I think that was so good. I loved the fact that they were able to fix things as they went. So defensively, for the first 50 minutes, I thought they were all over the shop. I thought different line speeds, a lot of dog legs, missed tackles. I felt that.
Why was that?
Maybe it was just the case of getting up to the pitch of the game. Maybe it was the Edinburgh good play. I'm not sure, but there was definitely a defensive system error within. And look, you can't really account for individuals making mistakes. That's going to happen in every game. But I just felt like that they were just kind of a little bit caught out of position. I just think that 6 weeks ago, they wouldn't have been able to fix that as the game was going. I just thought that they were able to fix that. And I thought that, to me, is the biggest plus, because there will be issues on Sunday because of the sheer probably class and creativity of Toulouse. And if you can fix things as you go, then you're shutting down windows and you're showing them different pictures all the time. And I just think that's a huge big plus for them.
Just on that point, we'll box off the couple of negatives first, and then we'll talk about obviously the big positives, the technical positives. So 22 missed tackles, 8 missed tackles last week against Connacht. Okay, you're away from home. It's you're playing a powerful side, a lot of Scottish internationals. So 22, that's probably something that they need to fix and look at with Dennis Leamy as the Dennis Leamy, all the coaches, I suppose, but the defence really is something that
I think it was
down.
If you look at it, they were trying to insert so much line speed that sometimes when you come up that quickly and you come up that high, that you're trying to force people back in, and it's when either A, that Hunt doesn't work out back on the inside, or C or B, that when you come up, you're reaching because you're going so quickly.
And you know what, Niamh? One of the big positives, and you mentioned it there, you will have an individual mistake. You'll have someone slip off a tackle, someone from the opposition overpower you or put a bit of footwork on. But you know what? The big positive here for me is the intent. They're much more aggressive in their line speed. They're much more, I suppose, bringing more intensity to what they're doing. They look fitter. They look like the work rate is increased. So technically, yeah, sorting out some stuff in defence is something that needs to improve. Couple of turnovers that they had, again, you'll always have that in games, but they're things that they look back on. And I think there was more opportunities at times that they didn't take, that they'll certainly look. The positives then, let's move on to the positives. So for me last week, and I just on the stats situation last week, at home against Connacht, they were 46% possession and 47% territory. They go to Edinburgh and they 57%, possession 53% and territory 57%. Munster have. So in other words, what I'm saying is they have more ball and they have more territory. They're playing the right areas. That's game management. That's bringing all those elements together, like your technique, your aggression, your ability to make good decisions when you have the ball, play in the right areas, down to Carberry, the halfbacks, but the forwards then are bringing that energy and aggression. That's a big positive for me. So that's down to game management. So to go to Edinburgh, have 53% possession and 57% territory, that indicates. And the score, look, the stats sometimes can be skewed. You can have lower possession than the opposition and still win the game. But I just think, and Munster showed that last week, but I just think to go away from home and control the game after those 15 minutes was really impressive.
Yeah, hugely. And I thought Craig Casey was excellent in that department, especially within that shaky kind of first 20 minutes. I think his exit kicking was excellent. Like the yardage he's getting is unbelievable. And then what it does, it sets up a platform, because Munster's defensive lineout is one of the best in the country. And then you're putting pressure on the opposition straight away. So I thought it was really, really good. I thought Joy's kicking game was really good. His ability to find grass was huge, because it turned, their back three were really good. The likes of Darcy Graham, Doohan Barnamerva, really, really good players. And I just felt his ability to find grass. And then on the back of that, the chase. Calvin Nash, Shane Daly, their chase is unbelievable. Their ability to Zebo, to be fair to him, to get up there and put pressure on that means that the exit kick that you're getting back, you're putting pressure on them and then you're winning that territory. So, yeah, I thought their game management was really, really good.
Yeah, the other positives for me, defenders beaten 19, which, again, adds to what they're trying to do in attack. It was 13 last week and 6 offloads, 10 offloads last week. Again, they can go up and down a little bit. But what we're seeing, obviously in the first, in these first block of matches, I think, for Munster is the intent around the attack. But now we're seeing some of these things happen. They're starting to stick. They're protecting the ball a little bit better. And, halfway through the league campaign, it looks a little bit better now for them. And the stats show that, to score 5 tries away from home, have 9 clean breaks, 19 defenders beaten, and 6 offloads. Now, my pessimism will come straight in after this and say, you were right. We won't get carried away, and I don't think anyone listening will think Munster, the finished article, everything is perfect. No, it's not. What we're saying, it's much better than what we've seen from, we'll say, Zebra at home, Dragons away. We saw some intent against Leinster and Ulster that was much better, but we're starting to see, I thought the ability for, Anton Frisch's hands, the way he switched from one side of the field to the other, got his hands on the ball, had a little bit of just fixed the defence, and then gave a lovely short pass to Rory Scannell for that try. I thought, wow, that's outstanding.
It was, but can I ask you a question? Why was it so outstanding? So you have to think about this. If you're swinging, so the ability of the backs to swing is what we call it, go from like say 50-metre to 50-metre channel. It all depends on the work rate off the ball. So as Frisch comes around and Scannell is running square, the fact that I think it's Calvin Nash, Shane Daly, right behind him. So it's two-tier attack. Straight away, as a defensive line, you're like, who do you have? And it's happening so fast, you don't have any time to identify. So therefore, it makes it's actually really easy. It's a small little bang, or like a double pump into the Scannell, and he's through. But it's a lot to do with the work rate from the players off the ball. So Zevo is running flat. There's an option out the back. And therefore, it's really difficult to defend. So as you come around and you look up, all of a sudden you're faced with 3 or 4 players that are all in different kind of dimensions as opposed to 3 flat players. And
we saw that again for Calvin Nash's try. So Anton Frisch, brilliant hands, options out the back, frontline runner getting the ball. And the same happened for Calvin Nash's try. I know Edinburgh will probably look back on that and say, "Oh, we should have defended that better." But he puts pace in the ball. He's an option there for that frontline ball for Joey Carberry, and that's a big improvement. It's an incredible try, absolutely brilliant score. So loads of positives there, and much better from what we're seeing. Hopefully, they can keep building on that and keep improving.
Do you think, from a set piece point of view, that I don't really know a huge amount about the scrum, but I just felt like we were kind of under pressure at times in relation to that.
It is a worry right across the board. You'll see Toulouse on Sunday. They'll bring on an international front row. Probably they have so much depth there in that area. But look, it is what it is. They just have to scrummage better as a unit. They had problems against Connacht, a few issues the other night. It was better, but you see who Edinburgh are bringing on. They're bringing on, Bowen Venter and WP Nell.
Yeah, they're internationals.
And they start with Pierre Schumann and Lewin de Bruin, another South African, 128 kilos. So there's a lot of power there. And look, it is an area that we know Munster need a bit more depth and need to be better. But they've got to keep working on it and hope that at least they can get parity in these games, because then they can try and keep teams moving and stuff like that. So a lot of positives there. Let's just talk about player performances, and we're going to go on to our star of the week in a minute. But I think you could go right across the board here and pick everybody who played really well. I love the fact that Calvin Nash looks like a guy now who belongs at this level.
He's right.
Stuttered a little bit for a number of years, didn't get opportunities with it in and out of the team. Looks like a guy who knows what he's doing, and that sounds a bit disrespectful, but looks like he's in the right areas. He's making good decisions defensively. He doesn't look this raw kind of energetic player that we've seen glimpses of in the last couple of years. He looks like a real player now who's added a lot defensively from an attacking point of view, and he has that bit of spark. So he was brilliant.
Isn't it amazing what a little bit of confidence can do to somebody?
Yeah, but it's been well coached as well. It's been well coached, Niamh.
I know, but having been in and out and not getting a run, he's openly said that. He'd be in for a game and out for 5 games previously. You get selected to go on an emerging tour. You do well there. You come back and you play for Munster and you get selected into the Autumn Nations series. And now all of a sudden we're seeing completely, he is getting well coached. I know what you're saying, but I'm saying what a little bit of confidence can do to a player.
Confidence is massive.
Class.
It's massive, confidence. Yeah. Shane Daly's the same. Looks such a bright player. Looks like he's fulfilling his potential. Really, just doing the simple things so well, and then popping up an attack. the reality of this is these guys, I have to be careful what way I say it. They were not getting the feedback that they're getting now. They were not getting the individual tap on the shoulder, analyzing their games to a high degree. They weren't getting that. It wasn't happening for these players. And you can see the benefits now of Shane Daly, of Calvin Nash. They're getting that stuff from Mike Prendergast. They're getting that stuff from Leamy, from Roundtree. They understand what they're doing, and they feel confident in themselves. So I saw Daly and Nash were absolutely brilliant again. Frisch. Rory Scannell, you said it, made one or two errors, missed a tackle or two, but I love the fact that he looks like there's an extra spring in his step. Brilliant line for the try. It was absolutely outstanding and really good against Connacht and South Africa as well. So that bodes well.
I agree.
John Hodnett again, super performance, but unsurprisingly, John Klein is going to be our Munster Star of the Week, because just the work rate, the honesty of this guy. He's had his critics, brought into the World Cup squad in 2019 ahead of Devin Toner, hasn't been picked since. His skill set isn't the same as some of the international second rows. That's not his big strength, but I just love the fact that this guy turns up week after week in adversity sometimes when they're under a lot of pressure. And there's an honesty there, and there's a work rate, and he's a bruiser. He pulls down mauls, he makes so many tackles, carries, hard yards. I just think he was, incredible performance from him the other night. I'd love to see him bring that every week, because I think his name could start being mentioned again. And we understand he's not as skillful as a James Ryan or a Tadhg or Henderson maybe, and he's not the same type of player. But I still think there could be a need for someone like him. There's a need for someone like him in every team. I think Leinster have signed Jenkins from last year to do a similar role. But look, I think he was brilliant the other night, and it was great to see. Tadhg was outstanding again, and the back row. I love the fact that Gavin Coombs, for his try, is running onto the ball with pace. And I think we spoke about that. That's an area where he needs to. I want to see him get more ball and more out a little bit wider, so that he can run and fend and pump the legs. And he did brilliantly for the try. But our star of the week is John Klein. Well deserved. I think he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, huge. I think we've got to give kudos to John Ryan as well. 200 caps for Munster. Incredible. I suppose he probably never imagined he'd be in this position. But not only that, whatever about set piece, because I've openly said that I'm not, very knowledgeable on scrums. His ability around the park is so good. We never really saw that because of the type of game that Munster had been playing when he was there. But he's running in open channels. He's popping passes. He's throwing passes out the back of hard runners. I think that I don't know what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure he signed on a short-term contract in December. Am I right? I'd love to see Munster keep him if they could find a way. I think he's been a revelation, and I think with Archer out for a long term, but I think he brings even something different to Archer. I think he brings an ability to be able to go to the line and to be able to throw those passes and play that type of game. And he looks explosive. We never really got to see that. So I thought he was really, really good as well. But Scannell was good, and Dermot Barron. There's still question marks over both throws, I think, in key moments. I don't know whether that's the call, that's the jumper, that's the lifter, that's the throw. I don't really know, but there's still issues that need to be ironed out to have a brilliant line out. But both of them, I thought, played really, really well. And you're right, I thought Rory Scannell was really, really good. I thought he, I know they signed Frisch as a 12 originally. I think everybody was thinking it's going to be Frisch at 12 and Fekitoa at 13. I think Rory Scannell is allowing Frisch more time on the ball. He's allowing him to be able to see space and be able to, to throw those offloads and stuff, because he's out another channel. And I think that left boot as well is good. And I think having that second playmaker We effectively have three players in the 10, 12, 13 that can open a game up with a pass. And I think that's a really good potent weapon for them.
Yeah, Malachi Fekitoa hasn't been involved in the last 2 weeks, and that's something that probably a few people are asking me about. I don't know the ins and outs of why he's not been picked. I know he hasn't played that particularly well, and obviously Chris Farrell is not available. So it's an area that, dare I say it, if you picked up an injury to two, and the depth chart isn't so good there. I still believe Fekitoa, there's a spark there, there's a bit of magic there. He needs to work harder, and I think he needs to work harder and probably buy into what they're trying to do more and be more of a team player. He's very much an individual, and he's a big signing. And
but can I just say, I read an interview with him this morning. So he's obviously up for press or something this week, but he spoke about how he's trying to doing his best to fit in. I think in the first couple of weeks, because Frisch wasn't available, Munster were using him as a playmaker, and that's not what he is. He is literally a hard runner. He is somebody that runs hard, breaks lines, and gives a little offload. I think that if you play him with Frisch, then you're affording him an opportunity to be able to run off him. I just think that the first few weeks he's not a playmaker, and I just think that he's struggled with that, and therefore looked like he wasn't playing that well. But I just do think that he has X factor. We know that.
Would Jack Crowley be an option there at some stage?
Yeah, I just think he'd be an unbelievable 12. Genuinely, I've said it to the Salmon under 20s. I was like, imagine he's got an unbelievable ability to step. He's explosive, even though he looks kind of slight, and his passing range, obviously, his kicking range is unbelievable. We all know that. But imagine putting him on a one-out channel. The only thing is that you're going to get big runners down his throat, and do you want him to be tackling big runners? But I do think he could be an excellent 12.
Okay, he might be an option. We may see him there in the next few weeks, but hopefully they don't, they keep all their players fit and healthy. We spoke last week about obviously prioritising the league and trying to manage and pick a strong team for Edinburgh. It'll be interesting to see what team they pick this week, because we're looking at Toulouse, Northampton, Leinster, Ulster and the Lions, and then Northampton again and Toulouse. So, or Toulouse, Northampton. So it's an incredibly busy block. Everybody can't play all those games, and particularly the international. So they need a little bit of luck. All teams will, and the depth will certainly be questioned. Looking ahead to this week, Munster, Toulouse. Does it get any bigger? Maybe one or two other teams, but this is top of the pile, and it's kind of imperative for Munster to start this stage of the round one of Europe to try and get a result. The last time Toulouse were here in that kind of that round of 16 matches there last May, 12 months, they knocked Munster out of Europe. They're an incredible side. Antoine Dupont is going to be available. His suspension was reduced. He's going to be available from on Sunday. And when I think of Toulouse nowadays, Niamh, I just think Dupont, Intermac. I know there's a bunch of powerful forwards in front of them. They'll always have a big pack. But you just think Dupont, Intermac, they're the ones. Obviously,
and
last
Ramos.
May. Obviously, last May. I mean, the last time Toulouse came to Thomond Park.
Yeah.
Obviously, last May they played in the Aviva, and that was an incredible game. We know what happened there with the penalty kicks and stuff like that. They're incredibly powerful, and Munster produced a brilliant performance that day. Where do you see this game going? And obviously, we're speaking about Munster being in much better shape heading into this game.
Yeah, look, I think it's very interesting. I was actually at that game a couple of years ago in Thomond Park. It was COVID. There wasn't any crowd because of I was doing media work, and there were times during that game where I was speechless at the ability of the Toulouse players. I think They're one of the best sides in Europe. They're just incredible at what they do. But I think this Munster side going in with confidence, I think we go at our strongest. It's a home game. I think you go, a packed home and park. I think you got to go and you've got to make it as uncomfortable for them as possible. I'm not sure Intimac, I'm hoping I'm not going to eat my words, but I'm not sure Intimac is having the best season. Ramos seems to be taking over a huge amount of the direction within that group, that back line. But it's their ability up front. It's like they have so much. You know what I mean? So many good players to be able to get you over the gain line. And if Munster can match that power from either a set piece point of view, from a line speed, not allowing them over the gain line easily point of view, I think Munster are in with every shot in this game, genuinely.
Okay, it's yeah, I think so. I think so. I think people will be much more confident. How do you deal with we mentioned the scrum, and again, we're kind of looking into a crystal ball. We don't know what teams are going to be picked here, but you imagine Munster will, be largely similar side that played against Edinburgh last Friday night. How do they, nullify that scrum? We had big issues in that game in the Aviva around the scrum, penalties there. Marchand seemed to be like a bulldozer, at hooker, ahead of his two props, and just really putting massive pressure in that situation, just split the scrum up. It's an area that Munster have to try and get some sort of parity on Sunday. Can they do that? And what type of a game, what type of a game do they need to play? Do they need to kind of, continue what they're doing, throw caution to the wind, and we'll have loads of tries from both sides, and Munster hopefully will come out the right end of it? Or is it a case of, put the ball up in the air, play some smart rugby?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of all of them. Just in relation to the scrum, I think they'll have learned a huge amount from last year, from those young players that were in there, and let's be very honest, Graham Rowntree was a brilliant scrummager. So from that point of view, they're learning all the time. I think that they'll definitely have some sort of, technical, tactical type of a thing where they're, that when they hit something, things are going to happen, and they can try and negate it. I just think it's going to be a case of it's going to be a bit of a lottery from the scrum point of view. They are incredibly strong. I think from the point of view of how they go after Toulouse, I think that they've got to play. They've got to be, courageous. They got to be brave and not throw caution to the wind, but play sensible, play in the right patches of the park. You cannot kick poorly to Ramos. He is electric at the moment. He has been playing brilliant for Toulouse, brilliant for France. And I just think that when you get to that space, that back three, if you kick poorly to them, they're going to punish you. But I don't think you should negate how you want to attack on the basis of who you're playing to a certain extent this weekend. I think that there's definitely going to be moments where they can attack. I think Intimac has been shaky in defence. Peter Aki's just coming back from a long-term injury. Dupont's going to not have played for a few weeks. There will be chinks in that, and it's just about finding your way through. And I think that Munster will have the confidence to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty daunting task when you start looking at the history of Toulouse and the way they approach the Champions Cup every year is brilliant. They're continuously, it's something they love. They've won the competition 5 times, French Championship 21 times, 8 times. Incredible history. The squad they have, they're top of the top 14 again. Played 12, won 8, drawn 1, lost 3. They just continuously deliver time after time after time, and they're always a difficult proposition. But that game was 40 points to 33 in the round 16 game that they knocked Munster out when they won the competition in 2021. They're an incredible squad, brilliant coach as well, and Hugo Mola, and they just keep rolling out players. I wonder will we see any sign of Trevor Brennan's son on Sunday. He's been playing with him and making great strides with him, Josh Brennan as well. So it should be great. It should be a great occasion, Sunday afternoon, and we'll certainly want to look forward to. We won't make any predictions until we see teams, and but it's going to be a very difficult game for Munster. But let's hope they can start off their European campaign with a win. That's it for this week, Niamh. For all our listeners, get in touch, send us tweets on YouTube, or send us messages to our own personal Twitter accounts if you have any thoughts and observations on the game at the weekend. It's one to look forward to. Chat to you soon, and thanks again, Niamh.
Thanks a million, Quinny.
The Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Nobody knows Munster rugby better.
I'd like to think I know a lot.